the heroes of the range and the heroes of the games have all ridden. Ride now to Calgary with the masters of the wheel and the horsepower. The stock cars will gallop here again in moments.
Good afternoon, everyone, from Race City in Calgary, Alberta. This is the American Speed Association. This group has become the fastest growing stock car association in North America. 3 years ago, they debuted their brand new Formula race car. It's the most modern and advanced in their racing history. And they are riding the crest of their largest television contract in history. This season, 1993, has become their most competitive. In the first 7 races, we have had 6 different winners. Only Johnny Benson Jr. has been able to double up. They come here to the Calgary 500, the Players Limited 500, for the most demanding race of their season. In the pits, as always, at an ASA race, Ralph Sheheen.
Larry, this racetrack is one of the most picturesque that the ASA Tour visits during their racing series. However, it is also one of the toughest races. And for a guy who just got through racing last night and then has to travel all the way up here from the United States, it makes the job of winning here at Calgary even tougher. And that's what faces Scott Hansen. And to make things worse, he'll start dead last today. Just before the cars got out on the track, I had a chance to talk with Scott about the task ahead.
Well, I'm not going to try too hard to go to the front right off the bat. Tony Raines practiced my car a little bit yesterday and said it felt real good. So I got a super pit crew here, and I'm just relying on them when we come in for tires and gas to get me out early, and I think we'll be up front shortly.
It's a 500-lap race, and you start absolutely dead last. How tough is that on the car, and how, as a driver, do you try to convince yourself, I'm okay at this pace even though I'm way back in the field?
Well, I rely on the guys in the pits with a stopwatch. The big thing I've got to worry about, they claim Mike Eddy was running real strong here yesterday in practice. I've just got to run fast enough to keep from getting lapped and get through the traffic and, stay out of trouble. But it's going to be a long race. 500 laps here is a long time, and we'll be okay.
As you can see, Scott's got a long day in front of him. But one guy who's got a little bit easier is Jeff Neal. His split-fire back Ford Thunderbird will be starting in second spot on the grid this afternoon, his best qualifying start to date. Now, he's had some changes in his crew. He thinks that's one of the reasons why it's going better. We had a chance to talk with him about that as well earlier today.
Well, now I know everything's done right, and if anything goes wrong, I got myself to blame. I got a good bunch of guys. They believe in my talent, and I believe in them. It makes a good combination.
500 laps here is a very long distance. What is going to be the key in your mind? Is it going to be pit stops and getting track position, tires, what?
Well, it's a long race, so if you just stay out of trouble, see how your lap times dictate your tire strategy. If you can run a consistent speed for a long time, you don't need to stop as much. So we're just going to go by that. We won't really be able to tell until about 100 laps in what we can do.
A young lion at the front of the field and an old veteran coming from the back. It should be exciting, Vic. Back to you.
Thanks very much, Ralph Sheheen. Hello, everybody. Vic Crowder along with Ralph Sheheen and Larry Newber. Welcome to Calgary Race City Speedway in the 1993 edition of the Players Limited 500. 500 laps around this half-mile oval. 26 cars are going to the starting grid. And now let's meet today's field.
Mike Eddy, defending ASA champion, won once this year, driving the GM Goodwrench Pontiac.
Jeff Neal, car number 5. My father builds the motors, I drive them, look for the split fire, spark plugs, Ford, and Victory Lane.
Hi, I'm Johnny Benson Jr. 6 poles, 2 wins. The road to Victory Lane seems to be around us.
Tony Raines, we've gotten off to a bad start this season, but we're looking to turn things around, hopefully for our first win here at Calgary.
Tom Jones, I've done very well here before. I'm confident and I'm overdue.
Ken Stauffer, consistently the fastest Ford all year long. This could be my race.
Bob Senneker, all-time ASA winner, but it's getting tougher every day.
Jay Sauter, oldest of 11 children and fortunate enough to be racing full-time.
Dennis Latman, best career finish was here, 3rd, qualified in the top 10.
Randy McDonald, the leading rookie, and a win here in Calgary, Canada would be great.
Tony Roper, my best finish was 4th last year. We're looking for bigger and better things, probably today.
Hi, Mike Miller. I fly during the week, and I'm flying on the weekends.
Those are your first 12 as we take a look now at row 7. Gary St. Amant, Glenn Allen Jr. Glenn Allen Jr. won at Cayuga back in June. Making up row 8, Russ Gamester and Joe Knott. Gamester, the former USAC Midget champion, and Joe Knott in just his 2nd season of ASA racing. Making up row 9, Tom Harrington and the veteran Harold Fair from Detroit. Fair, an 82 Rookie of the Year in ASA. In row 10, Brad Loney from Cedar Rapids, Iowa. Surprised a lot of people a week ago in Minnesota. Did well on the road course. Is a half-mile specialist. This is a half-mile track. Alec Pinsino, the rookie from Windsor, Ontario. Row 11 is all Missouri. Driving the number 2, Clark Oil and Flying Chevrolet is Terry Whitty. Finished all 16 races a year ago. And from Claycoma, Missouri, A.J. Cooper. One of our 2 in-car cameras today will be with the top rookie from Oshawa, Ontario. That is, of course, Randy McDonald. Row 12, David Anspaugh and John Freeman. Anspaugh from Sturgis, Michigan. Freeman from Monticello, Indiana. And Scott Hansen and Larry Martin. Hansen finished 2nd twice this year. Green Bay, Larry Martin, 3rd Canadian, Bernie BC.
Vic, this is as much a race of intellect as it is of prowess. This is a race on a 0.8-kilometer track, and it's 500 laps. Very demanding.
Well, exactly. I would think more than anything, you're going to take a bit of a beating. Your body's hardly going to take a beating as we take a look at the number 9 of Dennis Latman. And we go inside now with Jay Sauter, 31-year-old from West Salem, Wisconsin.
The pace car is pulled to the high side as the field comes out of corner number 2. We're going green this time around. Remember Scott Hansen, one of the fastest cars in this field? Probably. He won a race yesterday in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. He starts in the last row of this one. Also watch for Gary St. Amant. He starts 13th.
But on the pole is the 2-time defending champion, and we have green here at Race City Speedway in Calgary.
You're riding with Jay Sauter, who's on the outside of row number 4. Sauter looks for some cover. See Johnny Benson Jr. getting out of shape there in the 3rd place car.
As we look at the back of the field, and right away you can see that number 53 has moved up. We got to look there at Larry Martin from Bernie, but you're right, Hansen is on the move, and on the move quickly.
Well, you heard him talk about it before the race began. He has to move quickly, but also cautiously. Drivers call it taking your time, going fast.
Jeff Neal, who was outside row 1, is the leader, followed by the number 88 of Mike Eddy, the 2-time defending ASA champion, and his season opener in Missouri.
That was Eddy. Neal, who's now leading this race, has never won one of these ASA races, despite the fact that, and there's Johnny Benson Jr. He's been the man to beat this year, challenging Mike Eddy outside. Back to Neal. He's never won one of these races, despite the fact that he is easily into the top 10.
So you talked about a cautious beginning. Well, Johnny Benson Jr. appears to be throwing the caution to the wind, as it were, as he tries to make his way the long way outside, taking that high groove around Mike Eddy.
You can do things like that, Vic, when you have the biggest stick in the valley, which is what John Benson Jr. has had, really, for the last 2 years, the best car in the ASA.
Johnny Benson Jr., the 1990 Rookie of the Year, and you know, a lot of times, Rookie of the Year doesn't mean anything in a lot of sports, but he has panned out. This is one young man who has gone on to bigger and better things since being named Rookie last year, his best season ever in ASA racing.
John Benson Jr. is the only driver to win more than once so far in ASA. 7 races, 6 different winners. Yep, it adds up. Those guys must have won twice.
Benson winning once, that was in Columbus and in Nashville. Those are his 2 wins. As we look back, look who's coming. Yes, sir, that is Mr. Hansen.
He goes to the high side of Terry Whitty in the car. Scott Hansen has moved up to about 18th
Welcome back to Calgary Race City Speedway on a day that's turned out to be glorious compared to last year's snow. The players limited 500 laps, 0.8 of a kilometer, half a mile, prize money $200,000, $12,000 US, plus contingency bonus money going to the winner.
Vic, in today's race, we mentioned we've had a variety of different winners so far in 1993 in ASA. Only 3 drivers who have won races so far in ASA that have entered this race. Mike Eddy, surprise there, Bob Senneker, that's no surprise. Glenn Allen Jr., red, white, number 15, young driver from Cincinnati, Ohio. He won early this year at Cayuga.
That race was back in June. As you look at that number 53, there goes Mr. Hansen as he moves up. Remember, Scott Hansen from Greenfield, Wisconsin, started in the last row, row 13, 25th overall. Expected to take the cautious route to the front, but has made no bones about it as we go on board now with Randy McDonald.
Randy McDonald is the leading rookie driver in the American Speed Association this year. He has run surprisingly well at every track they've gone to. Now, he's caught some of the ASA regulars off guard, but for those of us here in Canada, we knew all along that Randy was a good racer.
And the other thing about the McDonald ride is this is his, if I'm not mistaken, his 3rd different ride of the season, so he's had to adjust to cars and teams.
Yeah, Randy's been very involved in putting the teams together with money and so forth, and it's been a bit of a rocky ride so far. More on that a little later in this one.
Johnny Benson Jr. in the number 21, still trying, but right now, just right on the bumper of that number 5 with Jeff Neal. And interestingly enough, about a couple of cars in front of them is Scott Hansen. And remember Hansen now, that's one thing about half miles. Might as well point that right out. You catch up on the slower cars, the back end is very good.
Vic, we're at lap 50. What has happened is that Neal and Benson had a clear track for the first 30 laps of their race. Hansen was caught in traffic. And look now, they're moving to the inside. Scott Hansen, it's happening what he did not want to occur, and that is he goes a lap down to the race leader, Jeff Neal.
Can you imagine that? We're going 500 laps, and he's already a lap down. But then again, he might just pick that up just as quickly if one of those leaders, if Neal, for example, or Benson Jr. goes into the pits, he'll get that back.
Another disadvantage that Hansen is at is that he didn't practice this car, this setup, and this track this weekend, these atmospheric conditions. He will get better as a veteran driver the first time he goes into the pits. Right now, he's probably crashing in the skill strip.
You're looking at the leader. That is the 28-year-old from Grays Lake, Illinois, Jeff Neal, in his split-fire spark plugs Ford as he makes his way around the number 33 of Brad Loney.
Brad was one of the surprise rookies of last season. He was an acknowledged half-mile specialist, but as Vic mentioned earlier, he surprised everybody who follows ASA with his prowess on all tracks, including the road course last week at Brainerd. There is Loney. He's desperately trying to hold on to the lead. The first time around like this, you may be asking, why haven't they given him the move-over flag? That's the leader. Well, officials will give Brad a chance to preserve his leading lap status. If he loses it this time, he's going to be asked to move over next time.
Hansen's still trying to move out now. Hansen on the outside.
Oh, McDonald. That's Randy McDonald in the red car. He gets a little loose right in front of Hansen, and it caused Hansen. There's Johnny Benson and Dick Benson. Oh, and there's a spin in corner number 1. That's Tom Harrington. And Glenn Allen.
44-year-old from Hendersonville, Tennessee. Tom Harrington loses it in turn 1.
And Glenn Allen Jr. was almost involved, and that happened as the leaders were trying to thread the needle. You saw John Benson Jr. get very close to Dave Anspaugh. There is Harrington getting sideways. That's Anspaugh, the green and yellow number 37. He's the racing middle school principal. Harrington does what we call one of those hard slide jobs. It's rained a lot all week, and it's very soft around in the infield. Backs into it. No contact with any other car. Glenn Allen Jr. just misses it.
But you know, what really may have started the whole thing was that daring move by Johnny Benson Jr. I don't think either of those cars expected him to come through the middle, and it may just have shocked him a little bit.
I agree with you, Vic. Benson was trying to catch up with Neal and also keep Hansen a lap back. Now, Hansen is coming in for his first pit stop of the day.
Scott Hansen, who started 25th overall in the 13th row, makes his way to pit lane, and standing by there, Ralph Sheheen. Ralph.
Scott Hansen brings number 53 Lumina down pit lane. As we mentioned before, the car was a little loose, so they decided to take this opportunity under the yellow, change right side tires. You can only change 2 tires under a yellow here. They're trying to tighten the car up and get this car handling better for Hansen.
Scott Hansen makes his way back now, trying to make his way back up through the field. Remember, he is a lap down to the leader, and that is Jeff Neal. These cars are tremendous. With a look at ASA Racing, here's
ASA stock cars, they're actually hybrids, 26 years of incubation and growth. These cars start out as nothing more but regional and local hobby stocks and stock cars when crinkled fenders and broken windshields were the order of the day. Well, things have changed a lot and they're very professional now. The cars probably most closely resemble the showroom stock classes that we here in Canada are accustomed to seeing, but with one big difference. These cars have never seen an assembly line in Detroit. They are purebred race cars on the inside. Now, the center sections are manufactured by one single manufacturer to maintain safety standards and, most importantly, keep the costs down. Engines, V6, low compression, again, an economy motive. Why, they've even taken it one step further. Headlights and taillights adorn ASA cars. But don't tell anybody, these actually are decals.
They really are terrific. This is the second year of the new style of ASA car. A little narrower and a little higher. And you're right, people I think can identify with them a lot easier than they would. They look to be super modified cars.
We returned to green while we were watching a special feature on ASA cars. They've come a long ways with in the early days. These cars really looked like they were local backyard deals, but now they are as professional, probably a little more professional in appearance than any other stock car circuit in North America.
Jeff Neal continues to lead, coming off his best year ever. The 28-year-old was an 88 Rookie of the Year.
That's Tony Raines in that light blue and white number 25. Tony Raines right now is running in third position. That's fourth place, Jay Sauter. So these two young drivers, Raines now living in Pennsylvania, and Sauter from Wisconsin, as he has been his entire life. He and his other 11 siblings are running third and fourth. There's Bob Senneker, the metallic blue number 84. He's won a few of these races, like more than anyone else.
Yeah, the winningest driver in ASA history, the first driver to win more than $1 million. The only other person to join him at the $1 million table is Mike Eddy.
Big surprise from Senneker's holding back a big line of cars. Obviously, the car does not feel comfortable to him. That's Kent Stauffer going to the high side of him. Stauffer in the number 90 Flex-Tech kinetic engines Ford has regularly been one of the fastest Fords in ASA this year, but he has not come close to winning the race.
You know, you talk when you were profiling these cars, you talk about the V6 engines. Stauffer was the first driver to ever use a V6 Ford. So he really did blaze the trail in terms of engine development in ASA racing.
That second generation driver, red and white number 10, Tony Roper, going to the high side of Senneker. His father, Dean Roper, was a mile dirt track stock car specialist. And in the yellow 02, that's Larry Barton. Fernie, and that's a bunch of
Fernie, BC, and really this is unlike the Senneker that ASA fans have come to know. He's usually going the other way. Right now, though, Bob Senneker has all kinds of problems here in Calgary. He's going backwards, and he's getting passed by everybody.
He sure is. Senneker has now slipped to 10th position, and Senneker has broken. Something has gone wrong on Bob Senneker's car as he coasted there on the high side of the number 1 corner. You saw that confusion. The car's around, and let's look at it again.
Bob Senneker as Tom Harrington goes around the outside. Then it's the number 33. That's Brad Loney. And he just seems to die here.
Yeah, Senneker's right front drops down as Joey Knott goes to the inside. That's Gary St. Amand, and the wins Thunderbird going to the high side.
And I tell you what, Joey Knott got his nose underneath, gave Bob Senneker a little bit of a tap as Senneker heads to pit lane.
Vic, during this yellow, we've had a car stop on the front stretch. It's one of the 4 cars and drivers whose radio transmissions we are listening to today, Brad Loney.
Okay, Brad, come all the way around now and get behind the pace car. Don't come in this time. Get all the way behind the pace car. We changing both tires, Jamie? Yeah, we're going to change both right.
You always get the feeling they don't realize Brad has stopped as your leader, Jeff Neal, is into the pits. Ralph Sheheen is down there. Ralph, what's going on with our leader?
Crew goes to work on the right side of the split fire Ford Thunderbird. They will change right side tires and fill the car with fuel. Just next door behind him, as Neal's crew finishes up, is Johnny Benson Jr. His crew doing the same thing, changing right side tires and filling up the cars.
So So the first and second place cars are taking advantage of the yellow as we look at the points race at ASA. It's Benson Jr. by 14 over Eddy. Sauter, Senneker, and Hansen are your top 5, and we're in Calgary. You wouldn't believe how the weather has changed here in Calgary. That's what the weather was before now. Now it's really pleasant. Yeah, there is this chance of showers, but some really wicked weather passed overhead just before the green flag. And thankfully, there's no snow like there was a year ago here in Calgary. We're back under green on lap 104.
Vic, it actually rained about 30 minutes ago. Quite a hard rain before we went green, but the sun came out and track dried. It was time to go. Mike Eddy, now he has slipped in this race. Eddy is back to fifth position. This race is being dominated by Benson, Jeff Neal, and Scott Hansen has looked fast, but he's lost a lap.
The two-time defending ASA champion Mike Eddy was just 14 points behind the current leader, Johnny Benson Jr., looking to make up some ground. Just a little sideways there. Harold Fair in that number 81.
It's the bookends or the domino effect. When the guy underneath you gets a little loose, you got to mirror his movement, get a little loose to it, whether you want to.
Exactly. If he's going to push you up high, there's no sense of just sitting right there. You got to go high with Eddy going to the outside of Harold Fair and stuck in behind again. Hansen with that trap.
sparks flew. That means it was metal to metal. Don't know if there was any damage to either car. Wow, what a dramatic moment. And Jay Sauter was in the captain's seat watching.
Bump and grind usually have to pay $5 for that kind of dance. Johnny Benson Jr. still looking for a way to get by your leader in the number 5.
Oh, look at
Jeff
this,
Neal.
3 abreast going into corner number 1. I guess they all survived. There's Neal, there's Benson, and Jay Sauter really lost out in that exchange.
And it is Dennis Lampman in the number 9 that they're trying to get around. Lampman holding the inside line. Here comes Neal, and here comes Benson Jr.
Lampman qualified very well. He said he likes this track. He thought he was going to have a very good race today. And right now he's trying to hold on to leading lap status. And he does go 1 lap down, at least at this point of the race, to the race leader, Jeff Neal. Oh, and there's a crash. It's Senneker. Bob Senneker has collided with the outside wall in corner number 4. Let's take another look at that. Let's see if we can tell what happened. Remember, Senneker had the problem. And there's Senneker just simply losing control as he darts into the high-speed corner number 3. He hits the outside wall very hard.
So the problems continue for Bob Senneker. Let's go to Ralph Sheheen.
Bob, do you know what happened to you out there?
The front tire just went down and just instantly. It wasn't going soft or anything. Something just, I don't know if I ran over something or if the sidewall blew out or what, but it just went down and boy, I went in the wall really hard. I really hurt the car.
Do you think it was same situation as what happened to you earlier today, or are they completely different?
Well, earlier I had one go soft and I had to come in and pit for that one, and then this one just went instantly. It didn't go soft, it just blew out. I don't know what happened.
His face has become familiar to stock car racing fans across the country. Randy McDonald from Oshawa, Ontario, who really made his name in the Players GM Series, has tried stock cars at 2 other levels and now seems to have found his home here in ASA.
When you race in Canada, is it more important than racing on the other side of the border?
Well, I think they're all important, but definitely a little different attitude when you come to Canada. I've never been to Calgary. It's not really like home, but yes, I'm a Canadian, and I'm really proud of that. So it's like our home turf, and we do want to do well.
Randy, have you been surprised with your results in 1993 in ASA?
Yes and no. You know, we've had some top 10s already, and that's been really good. Our qualifying hasn't been as strong as I thought it would. Overall in points, we're 7th and just 50 points out of 5th. So that, I mean, we're right on target there. So I'd say when you look at it in retrospect, yeah, we're sort of surprised. But when we look at it at a per race basis, it's like, oh, we could have done better. Or we could have made fewer mistakes. And so we realize that, you know, we can still move forward. We're not maxed out by no means.
But leading the rookie points, and there have been more good times than bad, but there was a down period of this year. Talk about that just a bit.
Well, in case you don't know, this is the 3rd car owner I've been with this year. So we started out in Ohio, and now we live in Kansas City, Missouri. So a little bit like world travelers, but we've got a good team to work with now, and we're stable for the rest of the year.
And this feels like home. There's even some rumblings about maybe going south.
Yeah, we've you know, we've had some long-term programs or goals for a long time now, and it's just our first year keeps getting backed up. But we know what year 2, year 3, year 4, and year 5 has to be, but we're just trying to get year 1 positioned properly. And if we can get down south, then that's really what we're looking for long-term.
Randy McDonald, as you look at Scott Hansen continue to try and make his way up as we are on lap 153 of 500. McDonald out of a racing family of McDonald, of course. You mentioned earlier that he had his taste of Busch Grand National. That was at Daytona, but I think ultimately he'd like to run the big NASCAR series. And when you think about NASCAR, the last Canadian to really make an impact, that was, of course, from Ailsa Craig, Ontario, Earl Ross, who was a Rookie of the Year back, I think, in the late 70s.
Surprised a lot of people talking about McDonald being a surprise this year. Yeah, Earl did well. But that is Hansen. Remember, Hansen did lose a lap during the first green flag segment. He appears to be as fast as any car on the track. Those guys are the race leaders, and we've had a change for the lead up front. John Benson Jr. has now moved to the front, apparently getting around Jeff Neal as they exited the pit area during the last yellow flag period.
Neal moving to the outside of John Freeman as he now takes up the chase on Johnny Benson Jr., who has won twice already this year and going for 3 here in Calgary.
The interesting thing to me about John Benson Jr. is that he's so nonchalant about this. Without a doubt, this man has become the star of the American Speed Association. actively right now at John Benson Jr. He may well be a teammate to Ernie Irvin before this year's over.
Wouldn't that be something? Johnny Benson Jr., as we look back in the field there again, that white with the blue teal lettering, that is Scott Hansen.
Scott Hansen, who is the leader of a circuit of race cars that is headquartered in Wisconsin. They run in northern Illinois, northern Indiana, southern Michigan. Look at there, Hansen's window net is missing. We'll have to follow up on that story. That is a standard rule in North American stock car racing. You must have that net.
Jay Sauter, currently running 5th, has led several races this year, but never managed to win, never managed to finish.
We seem to be getting caught in a lot of last lap altercations. We're happy we're running up front. We've been up front every week. There's a lot of races we thought we should have won. I don't want to come off that we're everybody's scapegoat and it's going to keep happening to us, because it's not going to. We're laying the law down, and we're going to be tough, and we're going to win races.
When you say lay the law down, is it verbal or is it athletic behind the wheel?
Well, I got to do whatever it takes to get the job done, to lay the law down. Maybe it's a little bit of both.
Interesting, makes a point, and listen, let's not get carried away here. He's not talking about going out and doing something silly to lay the law down. He just wants to make sure the other drivers respect him and his ability.
Absolutely. What he means is that when someone comes up alongside of him, so it takes a rap at him, like we saw Neil get into the side of Benson earlier. Sauter, by the way, is 4th in points so far this year, so despite all the misfortunes.
Yeah, Jay Sauter with 1 win to his credit. That came a year ago in the Valvoline 200. As we see the 1st and 2nd place car, Johnny Benson Jr. in the number 21, followed closely by the number 5 of Jeff Neal. At 0-2, that is Larry Barton from Fernie, BC.
You mentioned that Neal has only 1 career win. We're actually in a transition in ASA. John Benson Jr., he only has 6 career wins, I believe it is, in his career. Most of them have come within the last 15 races on the trail. Jeff Neal, you're looking at there, has never won. Sauter's only won once. Glenn Allen Jr. has won 3 times. But these are all the people who are the stars of ASA today.
And you're right, you have to think ahead. How much longer does a Bob Senneker race? How much longer does a Mike Eddy race? People of that, as we take a look at the number 93, that is Alec Pinsonneau, the rookie driver from Windsor, Ontario.
He has had a tough year, but hey, this is like only his 1st year in full-size race cars. There's Dennis Lattman challenging on the outside. Don't count Lattman out. Qualified strong. He's run just about as good as anyone on this racetrack. And remember, he told us during the starting grid of this race, he's had his career best.
Mike Eddy now trying as he tries to pull up on the back bumper of Scott Hansen. Eddy, a disappointing day for him, not running up among the leaders.
Mike Eddy qualified very well. It was uncharacteristic, and he never, well, I shouldn't say never, he did it this week in July, qualifies on the pole, but he has slipped steadily backwards after that tremendous qualifying effort. Currently, he rests unofficially in 6th position, seen following Scott Hansen. And incidentally, must have happened during the yellow flag pit stop. We are now showing Scott Hansen as having gotten his lead back. Not getting a radio transmission. He stayed on the track during the last yellow flag pit stop, and Scott Hansen has gotten himself back into step with the leading lap race car.
It always makes you wonder what happens between qualifying and actual race day. I mean, Mike Eddy comes up with his really spectacular run to grab the pole. Looks like he may just run away with this, but all he's done is got a pack of troubles now, and as you say, running 6. So something has happened as we take a look at the number 2, Terry Wente from St. Peters, Missouri, in the Clark Oil Chevrolet Lumina.
Former open wheel star who, along with Russ Gamester, has moved over to the full fender cars. The things with roofs on the top, so should you get upside down, you don't get to see them, at least every other time.
The thing about him is that he has a staying power. He managed to finish all 16 races a year ago. He was 3rd in rookie points in 92.
Back to Mike Eddy, unofficial standings, by the way, at this point. It's Benson, Neal, Gary St. Amand, and the Wins Thunderbird has moved up to 3rd place from his 13th place start. Scott Hansen is 4th, and Mike Eddy, who we're looking at right now, is 5th. 6th is Mike Miller. Oh, we got a spin, and look who it is. It's Jay Sauter.
Jay Sauter, who we talked about earlier, or talked to earlier, said, you know, I just haven't had a lot of luck. We've been getting into a lot of last lap incidents here. This isn't last lap.
The yellow flag comes out for Sauter, and we have radio inside of Jay Sauter's car too. So let's watch this incident, listen, see if we can tell anything about what happened. Saying to no one in particular, everyone in general, what the heck happened. Another look at it again. There's Jay coming around, and he hits the outside wall very hard with the left front.
As you can see, they're working on Jay Sauter's car behind him. Jay, what happened out there?
Well, it's kind of hard to tell. I was trying to get around a lap car, I don't know, 91 or something like that, and wouldn't get out of the way. Finally, I got underneath him, and it appears that he knocked the bead off my right rear tire as we entered the corner, and I just lost it and hit the wall.
There's been a lot of close quarter racing out there today. Is it a little over aggressive, or is it just good racing?
Well, it's good racing. This track here in Calgary breeds good racing. It's just unfortunate that lap cars don't give the cars on the lead lap a little respect.
Unfortunately for Jay Sauter, the bad luck that bet him at Brainerd followed him to Canada.
It's Benson, Neal, St. Amant, Hansen, and Eddy. It's the Players Limited 500. And only here on TSN. Welcome back to Race City Speedway and the Players Limited 500 here on TSN. It is a magnificent facility, Race City. 3 tracks in one. The oval, which the ASA cars are on, a road course, and a drag strip. As we look at previous winners of the Players Limited 500, Bill Schmidt was the very first in '86. Richie Bickle Jr. Butch Miller won twice in '88 and '89. Bob Senneker, and the most recent winner, the pole sitter in today's race, Mike Eddy. As we're back under green, lap 205.
And Vic, you know what? While we're watching this race, you may have thought that was tape. Hey, the club racing on the road course is going on while this race is happening.
71 events. It is a jam-packed, full racing season here at Race City in Calgary.
Race leader is John Benson Jr. There is Jeff Neal in the Spitfire Thunderbird directly behind him. They have been the 2 dominant cars so far in this race. That white car right there, that's Scott Hansen. Boy, don't count him out. Remember, he lost a lap in the first green flag segment, had a bad setup in the car. He started in the last row because he did not qualify yesterday. But since he's gotten his lap back, the leaders have never been further ahead than the Suns on his right.
You know, we were talking about Race City. It's nice to hear somebody like a Jay Sauter say the racing is good because the facility and the track are good. And that's one thing about Race City, and that's why these drivers have to make a heck of a trek up here to Calgary. It's a long way to come, but they like it, first of all, because of the facility. They're treated very well, and as you say, you've seen lots of tracks. This is one of the nicest in the business.
Yeah, it really is, and it's a 20-hour drive to get up here, and most of the last 5 years, ASA cars have been coming up here twice a year. So, as you point out, Vic, you gotta want to come here to go through all of that.
Johnny Benson Jr. continues to lead Jeff Neal here in Calgary. And I don't know, with nobody else challenging, these two guys look like they just might race for the checkered flag here.
Oh, we've got a long ways to go yet. We're not even 40% into this race, and up and down pit road, each driver to a man said, hey, really what happens in the first half of this race, as long as you can stay on the lead lap, maybe even a lap down, doesn't really make that big of a difference, because at 500 laps, like that, the flash of an eye, you can lose.
And I tell you what, they've got a bit of an advantage, the two leaders. They're in absolutely clear track. As, look at this, the number 11, that's Russ Gamester from Peru, Indiana. He's just coming out of the pit, and very slowly, as we take a look at the Rookie of the Year standings.
Russ Gamester is second behind Canadian Randy McDonald. You see Blake Pinson, he is third, and the two Coopers. AJ is the only one in this race. They are fourth and fifth in rookie point standings, but it looks like it's going to be between Randy McDonald and Russ Gamester. And so far, Randy has really had the edge, almost 200 points ahead, although Russ outpointed him over the last 3 races.
It is Chevrolet leading Ford. Johnny Benson Jr. in the Chevrolet Lumina. The Ford Thunderbird right behind belongs to Jeff Neal.
The unofficial rundown at this point, there are the first 2 cars. Benson and Neal, Gary Santamont still third. Scott Hansen holding his own in fourth. Eddie is fifth. Kent Stauffer in the blue and white number 90 is in sixth. Seventh is Dennis Heibel in the orange number 9. 20 Reigns has dropped a little bit. He's to 8th. Mike Miller ninth, and 1 lap down now is Tom Jones. Remember, he was one of the 10 fastest qualifiers. The fact is, he was 5th, and he's dropped to 10th and lost a lap.
And the 2 leaders now have gotten into some traffic. Interesting. Look at
oh, we got a crash, and it is Mike Eddy. How about that?
Mike Eddy somehow just seemed to lose it and then headed up into the wall in turn 1.
Oh, and Mike Eddy just barely misses the traffic behind him as he is limping toward the pit area. Now back out on the racetrack, this puts the 21 car of Benson and Neal in a great position. You see them flying past the slowly moving Eddy. He's down 1 lap, but Vic, we caught it just out of the corner of our eye. I don't know how hard he hit the wall, but if he hit it hard at all, I mean, that 1 lap that he lost would be the least of his problems.
No damage done, though. No yellow flag to slow down the leaders. The number 21 of Johnny Benson Jr., followed closely by Jeff Neal. Look at the 2 lines, though, they're taking here, how different they are. Junior wants to go high, whereas Neal seems to now want to duck inside a little quicker. Just set up.
Sometimes it's car setup, sometimes it's the characteristics of the individual set of tires that you have. Most race drivers want to run right down in the bottom of a track like this. It has a very flat banking. That is, there's no advantage. There's no higher degree of banking higher on the racetrack than the bottom. So most of them want to run right down the bottom. My suspicion is right now that Benson just doesn't have as good of set of tires as Jeff Neal. Incidentally, I'm looking across the infield from our position right now. They are doing work on the Eddy car. They've been working feverishly since he hit the wall. He's in trouble.
Got a great battle going on now for 3rd and 4th, and the number 7, Gary Saint-Amant, but the guy breathing a little heavy is Scott Hansen.
There's a spin right in the middle of the track. I saw Saint-Amant dart to the high side, and there's the reason. It is Alec Pinsonneau. He is spun there coming out of corner number 4 and going down the front straightaway. Let's take a look now at what happened. Now remember, Alec has spun on the front stretch. Here the leaders coming around. Oh, Benson is slowing. Neal does, and he clips him in the tail, and the 2 leaders are almost taken out. How about that?
And there's Pinsonneau facing the wrong way, and it looks like he may have tapped the wall because the rear panel is all off that car, the 93 of Pinsonneau from Windsor, Ontario.
Oh, that's unfortunate, Vic, because Alec really was having a pretty good race for Alec Pinsino. He was only 1 lap down, and he was about in 6th position. Now, Mike Eddy has been in the pit since his crash. Ralph has been monitoring the situation.
As you can see, Mike Eddy has climbed out of the Goodwrench Pontiac and is helping the crew work on the number 88 machine. In this type of a tight points battle, the way things are right now between Eddy and Johnny Benson Jr., Mike will do everything he can to get this car back in the race and pick up as many points as he can here at Calgary. We are 216 laps down. There's a long way to go, and you never know what could happen to the other cars.
Alec Pinsino is a racing businessman from Windsor, Ontario. He has a successful die-cast company. He's relatively new to racing, however, particularly at this ASA level. He hasn't missed a race this year, so we asked him what's good and what's bad about being a rookie in '93.
The best thing as a professional is being so professional in its the way it operates. The worst thing is the competitiveness. Very tough.
And it was a tough start to the year for Alec. 2 serious-looking accidents in his very first 2 races. Although he's 3rd in rookie points, remember, the top rookie gets $30,000. Alec's best finish this year is just 21st. It looked bad, but thankfully, no one was hurt.
It hurt me a little bit physically the first couple. We had a crash there in Nashville and then one at I-70, but we came back from that and it's a pass, no. I feel like we will improve. We haven't yet. Every track except for one so far, we're all new to us. As we go through the season, we are returning to some of these tracks, and I think that will be very helpful to us.
May not look like the traditional race driver, but he's traditional about any profession. You probably wouldn't expect him to be a race driver, but he does stand on the gas. This is especially a paved, banked, half-mile track in a stock car. He runs very well here at Race City. He's on the lead lap again. He's made it up. He's on the lead lap again.
Well, the Gentle Giant, obviously, because of his size, and he could use the extra weight, the extra size, because he comes off his best season ever a year ago.
The number 18 car, the yellow and blue Chevrolet, that is Mike Miller. Used to live in Wisconsin, now living in Atlanta. He is also having a good race. He is 8th, but he is moving. We are told that he is one of the 2 or 3 fastest cars on the track right now. And that's Mike Miller in the Justice Brothers Gillen Enterprises Special.
Right behind him, number 19, Randy McDonald from Oshawa, Ontario.
He looks pretty good right now. You know, Randy has slipped a lot from his 10th starting position, that is. He had dropped down to 13th position, but you're right, he's running as good as Miller. Miller is one of the 3 fastest cars on the track.
And it's Randy looking to the inside of Miller. Oh, Miller just shuts the door as Randy got hung up behind some slower traffic.
Does that ever happen?
Oh, I never. No, don't ever shut the door.
Going the high side of Tom Harrington had that unfortunate spin earlier in the race. He's had engine problems since then. It's Loney, Miller, and McDonald.
But look at how much that affected McDonald. I mean, he was right on the tail of Miller. And look at the ground now that he has to make up.
Again, Miller is in 8th. Loney is 3 laps down, and McDonald is 2 laps down. So this is not a race for position, but this is one of those soft underbelly sections, I believe Brock Yates used to say when it comes to a race, where cars at various stages of laps down and leaders seem to run together at various stages.
We talked earlier about Randy McDonald, his whole family, his dad very much involved. His sister also races. In fact, his sister is one of the drivers of the kart pace cars, and you'll see her if you attend the Indy race in Toronto or the Indy race in Vancouver. She drives one of the exotic pace cars on the kart circuit.
Listen to this. Scott Hansen, as we continue to watch these cars, Mike Miller, again, the highest ranked among those 3. Scott Hansen, we are told, has moved into the lead. Scott Hansen, who started this race in the last row.
Unbelievably, started 25th of 26. Scott Hansen, who has 2 second-place finishes this year, looking for his first win
halfway. I think he's made it.
Well, you know, you can't save the car here. You know, Mike, Eddie, and them guys that are up front qualified real well, and I can't afford to sit back and let them come up behind and lap me. So I'm going to have to run the car real hard, and just my crew is so good in the pit stops lately that I'm going to have to rely on them to get me out and get me track position. I think by halfway through this race, we'll be right up front real easily.
Great Scott, is he right? Scott Hansen at lap 262 has moved from 25th overall to take over the lead just past the midway point of this Players Limited 500 here at Race City in Calgary. A little bit of America has come north to Calgary. The ASA series is at Race City Speedway for the Players Limited 500. As we look through the front windshield of Jay Sodders, number 1. Remember the 31-year-old cracked the wall? Well, he's been in the pits for about 50 laps and now makes his way back out. Supposedly repaired. Yeah, go that way, make a little right-hand turn.
There's something missing. I don't see any hood on that car.
No, there isn't exactly.
Oh, look at here. Isn't this ironic? Mike Eddy and Jay Sauter have both been working on repairing those cars. Two of the top 3 cars in points, and they come out at exactly the same time.
Now, I'm a little curious. The bodies here are fiberglass. I'm surprised that the spec guys or the tech guys would allow solder back on a car like that.
It is something that has evolved through practice. Right? They have found that many times it's simply impractical because of damages to the structure of the car that you don't have enough to pass it on down. See the leader of this race is Scott Hansen in the lab. They have found that sometimes you have to allow it to go out with less than full body work. The structure is sound, the running gear is good, that is acceptable as long as you had a complete body work drive before it was made.
Well, there's no doubt that Jay Sauter is going to be hurt aerodynamically, but now he's looking to pick up laps and hopefully be around maybe to pick up a couple of points that could say something when it's all done come October.
Well, Vic, you mentioned that he is probably about 50 laps back, so aerodynamics don't mean much to him right now. He just wants to go out and get as many laps in this race as he possibly can. And again, as you point out, pick up some points. And there's a lot of cars still in this race, so this could be tough if around 20 finishes cars, his 10 fastest cars, desperately trying to hold on to the lead lap.
But I remember back to an interview Ralph did with Jay Sauter. Jay saying, you know, it's too bad some of the slower cars aren't courteous enough. Oh, as Benson Jr. gets the nose in front.
Oh, but can he hold it now? Lampman right now is in a position to favor one of those two drivers. He can either pull down on Benson, hold him back, or he can stay up there in front with the number 53 car. See what Lampman is doing? He was setting up Alec Benson now, so it looked like Lampman.
Oh, and then Benson Jr. got a little loose.
And Hansen, he gets by, and Benson has to fall into the brake.
Unbelievable. Just when Benson looked like he had it, he got a little sideways, and Scott Hansen takes it back. I'm surprised now that the starter, the guy that has the flags, hasn't flagged Lampman and said, get over.
Here's the reason why not. He's still on the lead lap mix, so technically he is not a lap car, and in the gentleman unwritten rules of racing, Lampman can race as hard as he wants to stay on the lead lap. Now it's possible that Hansen at 53 and Benson at 21 will get anxious or maybe over anxious, but no, Lampman is within his rights.
Lampman again closes the door on Scott Hansen. Here comes Benson trying it to the outside. And then Hansen moves to his right and blocks Benson.
Oh, it's very frustrating.
Inside, not really. Now, you know, the danger is here that you're right. One of them maybe got a little bit overly anxious, maybe make a move that they don't expect. The problem is, we've got Pinsino again, has spun. Alec Pinsino from Windsor, Ontario. We saw him earlier spin, catch the wall. In fact, on the front chute, he was facing the wrong way. This time, it looks like the day is over for Mr. Pinsino from Windsor.
Okay, we're about 335 laps down. Scott Hansen is race leader, Benson is second, Neil third, Rainsford, Mike Miller fifth, Dennis Lampman sixth. 1 lap down is Ken Stauffer, Tom Jones, Harold Fair, and 2 laps down the tank is Glenn Allen Jr. But everybody looks to be coming to the pits for a pit stop here. And now that we've got a break in the action, 11th spot is Gary Cinnamon. He's now lost 2 laps. Gary off the pace. He had to come in for a flat tire. Brad Loney 3 laps down in the red number 33. And Randy McDonald also 3 laps down.
But the biggest factor in the race right now seems to be Dennis Lampman as he continues to hold up the race leader Hansen and Benson Jr. in second place. Be interesting now, there is Mr. Pinsino waiting for the hook.
Now, there are going to be some pit stops coming up. We're going to have an opportunity here from Ralph, who's positioned himself into the pits of the leaders. Don't know exactly where he'll end up. We're also going to attempt to monitor John Benson Jr., the race leader, as he comes in for the pit stops. Here the cars come in. It'll be first Ralph and then maybe Benson.
With 373 laps completed, the leaders all make their pit stops. There you see Jeff Neal's crew going to work on his car. We take a look back at Johnny Benson's crew changing right side tires. Jeff Neal is getting left side tires. Scott Hansen's crew has him down, and Johnny Benson's crew with a tremendous pit stop.
Hell of a job, Johnny. Good job leaving. Yeah, sorry about that. Front tires locked up. I couldn't turn out. It's pretty slippery. But you did a fine job. Don't worry about it. You did great. Yeah, Dan, make sure if you cut the stagger by an eighth of an inch, sir, make sure if you do laps, compensate for that eighth inch. I want it back to where it was, or just a tad more. Yeah, 10 more.
Well, as Ralph said, a terrific pit stop for Johnny Benson Jr. and his crew. As look at this, the number 25, Tony Raines, starting to smoke as we continue under yellow. Problems on a day which hasn't been very good for him. Here's Ralph.
Well, Ernie, what's the cause for all the smoke?
We're not real sure. We broke a header pipe and don't know whether it burned a gasket in the valve cover and it's dripping down. We're not real sure. Oil pressure's fine. Everything seems okay.
Well, Raines has been as high as 3rd and 4th and as low as 11th. We're back to green flag, and I don't know, that was pretty heavy smoke. It did not look minor to me. Ernie was
Johnny Benson Jr. with that terrific pit stop has now taken over the lead. Jeff Neal running in second spot, and Scott Hansen is in third.
There's Gary St. Amant directly in front of Benson. St. Amant had a high water mark of place back at lap 200, but he has drifted a little bit since then, and you see Benson running significantly stronger than the Wins Thunderbird, at least at this juncture.
Like he was standing still, Johnny Benson Jr. gets around Gary Sinamont. Benson, as we say, has won twice so far this year, the only driver to win more than once, and looking very good, like he might make it 3.
Benson has about a 100-point lead. Incidentally, that's approximately 20 track positions over the second running of the points, like Eddie. And there's Scott Hansen. That window net is down, and by the way, I have checked on that during one of our commercial breaks, Vic, and the bracket that holds the window net up, the well broke, and so ASA approved Scott Hansen to run this race without the window net. They considered throwing the black flag and bringing him in, but because there is no mechanism to hold him up, let him out.
Maybe the best thing about that yellow was the fact that the leaders got around Dennis Lampman. They don't have to contend with getting around.
Yeah, that's true. Although Lampman all the way around the racetrack, and now he is right behind him. So remember, he's still in the lead lap. Look at there, Lampman is now 4th. So that was really a big advantage for him. He's really taking advantage of that gift that he was given from Evans.
Give you an idea of how dominant Johnny Benson Jr. has been this year. We talk about his 2 wins. He's also had 5 pole positions so far in 1993.
It was pretty funny. Last week at Brainerd, one of the races, the qualifying has been rained out. Benson qualified second, and I told him, I said, Johnny, you realize this is the worst you qualified all year long.
That's right.
Loney, almost out of shape, right in front of Jeff Neal. One of our top 3 cars. There's Hansen trying to take
taking advantage through the middle. Here he comes.
What is this, the start of it?
What a great move. Isn't that something to see the opening and then dart through it? Scotty Hansen.
Well, it happened when Loney got out of shape right in front of Jeff Neal. Jeff had to get out of the throttle. Momentum means so much on an oval track. Hansen took it back. Moves Hansen to second. There's third running Neal. Fourth is Lennon. Fifth. Mike Miller right on the track together. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Mike Miller, that blue and yellow number 18. We have called him a couple of times today, but I don't think anyone really expected him to be top 5 at this point. We're late into the 300 laps of this race. Miller, he looks like
Scott Hansen now taking up the chase, trying to run down Johnny Benson Jr.
We're going to take a look now at the entire field still out on the racetrack and show the running order to you on the left-hand side of the screen. This is an opportunity for you to update yourself on a driver you might be following. You can see the car still on the track. Harold Fair there in 7th position. He is on the lead lap once again. Ken Stauffer also on the lead lap. Glenn Allen Jr. has lost 2 laps to the race leader. Santaron has drifted. You see the other cars still on the track. 19 cars, the last 2 running. Mike Eddy, Jay Sauter, and then a total of 7 cars have dropped out of this event.
And probably the most disappointing is the 84 car, Bob Senneker. He was the first to go out of this race after cracking the wall.
But Johnny Benson Jr. was putting a lap on Tony Raines. Apparently the problem a little worse than owner Ernie Roselli thought. Raines was a candidate to win this race. He was definitely a top 4 car about the first 250 laps.
At least he's not smoking anymore.
Tony Raines won for the first time in his career in 1992 and won in the top echelon of the American Speed Association for about 3 seasons. Last year, he won for the first time. His version of the Willie Shuffle on the roof of the car, he got on the top of the roof of his car, lay on his back and squirmed. I didn't understand that, but that was his version.
He won that race at Cayuga, Ontario. In his 6th ASA season, Tony Raines. This man, though, may be the most dominant driver for years to come in ASA, or as you suggest, may get the chance to move up to NASCAR racing before the end of the year.
Benson, by the way, there are some ASA people who will take exception to that. They say move over, not up to NASCAR. We're talking about his domination. He has led 761 laps so far this season. How does that compare? Well, the second most led laps was 272. So Benson's like 500 ahead of that. And that belongs to the man in the black and white trim.
makes him so good right now? Is it the team? Is it him?
You know, there's something really strange that happens in racing, Vic, is that when you get on a roll, things seem to go your way. And I think what happens is that you find 2 or 3 secrets that make the car go better. The engine is at its peak performance, the chassis is just right. But what happens, you don't have to spend time on these super large projects. You can turn your attention to a small little detail, and that makes the car just perfect.
Take a look at the number 7. That's Gary St. We're being told, Larry, that he's got a bit of a header problem. He's getting some of the exhaust fumes, some of the carbon monoxide back into the cockpit area of the car. And there was talk that maybe they should bring him in. But Gary's saying, look, I want to stay up here. And he's running a lot slower, as you saw Loney and Miller go by.
How would we say about the landing on the hunt?
Yes.
Meanwhile, Benson, no problems, apparently no exhaust fumes. Well, he is giving exhaust fumes to the rest of this field. Benson, since about the 300 lap mark, has shown nothing except heels.
You can just see the lead that he has built up. Johnny Benson Jr. over Scott Hansen and Jeff Neal running 2nd and 3rd respectively.
Benson also has been a picture of reliability this year. He's completed 99.7% of the possible laps, meaning in one race, he ended up 1 lap down. He has completed every single lap in every other race, and that is the highest mark also.
Look at who's still out there as Johnny Benson makes his way around the number 93. Alec Kinsella wins. Last time we saw him, he was on the back of the record heading towards pit lane, but he got himself in shape at least to maybe finish this race here in Calgary.
Well, look at Benson. You were talking about what makes him so fast. It's strange, bordering on eerie. When things are going well and when you're doing well in the motor racing game, you can't explain it. You're more lucky. Dale Earnhardt and Richard Childress had this happen on the NASCAR scene. They had their car going really well. People crashing all around them, and Dale drives right through them.
Yeah, they're also mentally tough, I think, as well. He is mentally in a groove right now. He doesn't let the fact that he's doing 500 laps affect him. Johnny Benson Jr. is your leader here at Race City Speedway and looks very much like he's on his way to possibly winning his 3rd race of the year. Mike Eddy and Bob Senneker won here last year. Will Benson Jr. do it in 93?
crashes or anything, so this is just one of those minor ones. Now, while you were away at commercial, a couple things happened, and we have recorded them significant. There is John Benson Jr. Doing what he has done for, it seems like the last 4 days, and that is try and get around and slip. Watch what happens. Oh! As the inner corner number 3.
Now, again, raised the why is Lampman not getting out of the way? He is still in the lead lap.
Same answer. He moves over just a little bit. Don't know if he sees Benson. They make contact. Watch Benson fight. Hold on to this.
Does he ever have to fight? As he twitches left, right, and he does a great job. Because coming up behind him, of course, will be Scott Hansen looking to jump on any mistake that Benson Jr. makes. There's another look at Gary St. Amant. We talked about his problems, the carbon monoxide leaking into the cockpit. Well, it really hasn't been a great year for Gary.
You know, we come into '93 with Win sponsorship behind us, and you know, things really did look bright, a lot better than the 1992 season coming in, and you know, things just haven't really went that well for us. You know, we did have a second place finish at Columbus. I think that is our home track, and I think we were expected to win there. We didn't really have that great of a car, and we were pretty happy with the second place finish, but everything else, you know, we've had a kind of a miserable season. You know, we've been there, we've had some decent runs only to have something go wrong, and you know, we're looking to change things around here, right here at Calgary.
3/4 of the way through 500 laps here in Calgary, and if you're just joining us, let's get you caught up on what's happened with our Players Limited race reel.
Jeff Neal and Mike Eddy had shared the front row, but at the drop of the green flag, the man who roared into front number 1 first was Jeff Neal. Jay Sauter ran competitive most of this race. You're riding with Jay, you can see the first 5 cars inside the first 100 laps stayed together. Scott Hansen had started in the last row. He didn't qualify yesterday, quickly made his way to the front. Jay Sauter followed race leader at this point, John Benson Jr. It appeared as though Benson, as he comes together with Jeff Neal, is set to dominate this race again, as he has so many races. Then Bob Senneker darts out of control, the all-time race winner, and the next victim to the cement walls was Jay Sauter, carrying our in-car camera. Both cars knocked from contention. By the halfway point, there were still 8 cars in the lead lap, and in just 50 laps, there would be even 2 more joining them. A disappointing day for the leading Canadian, the leading ASA rookie, Randy McDonald. But ASA has been primarily chasing one man in the past 2 seasons. It looks like more the same today. John Benson Jr.
We have 10 laps to go here at Race City Speedway in Calgary. Now the great chase continues, but it's getting a lot closer. Scott Hansen is at least now, he can see those deco taillights of Mr. Benson Jr.
That's an interesting word, deco. We are now inside the final 15 laps of this race. They all have a problem. Hansen has a problem, Neal has a problem, St. Amant, Reigns, what problem is that I'm referring to? This is the part of the race that traditionally John Benson is the best at. He's been leading a race, Vic, up to the final 15, 20 laps. Normally in trouble. He's very good. He saves the best for last moment. Now, battle on the track for 3rd position. There's Dennis Lampman. Remember his travails with the race leaders. Mike Miller has stayed with him. He has shouted him. And this is the fight on the track for 4th position. Oh, Lampman gets a little bit out of shape. Miller goes to the inside. Will Gary St. Amant work in Lampman's favor?
He does. Boy, oh boy, he dove to the inside. That blocked off Miller, and Lampman takes advantage to hold on to 4th spot.
Oh, look how close they are. Lampman uses Gary St. Amant as a pick. He gets as close to him as he possibly can, and he repels Mike Miller, at least this time. Miller looks like he's running a little quicker. Now, comfortably, in 3rd place is Jeff Neal. No challenge to our 2 race leaders who are right there on your screen, and Benson moved down a little bit.
Exactly, as they go by A.J. Cooper. But this traffic now should help Hansen if Benson Jr. can get caught up in it. But right now, he's taking the high line, and it's the best line around this half mile here at Race City.
Neal is also back here. He's a little closer to Hansen than he has been for the last 10 laps. The traffic is spread out there. The top 3 cars are running the second line. There is Benson, the white cars, Hansen, the black cars, Neal. The top 3 cars are running in the traffic intermittently. They're all spread around, so it might not work to anyone's advantage over the other. Oh, and this shot, you can see Mike, I think I just saw Mike Miller finally has gotten past Dennis. Yes, he has. And indeed, that would be a change for position. A new fourth-place car, Georgian, is a transplanted Wisconsin Badger. Mike Miller has now moved to fourth.
And one of the few people that's been able to get around Dennis Lampman.
That's a very good point.
Gee whiz, Lampman has been just holding up people the entire race.
We must have missed all the How did he do that?
I don't know. It must have been by beard. The leader, though, continues to be Johnny Benson Jr.
That is Chris Bradley, his crew chief, watching very intently. We are monitoring the radios. There's not much conversation as Hansen drops and go off into the grass. Not much conversation right now as both driver and crew chief concentrating intensely.
And you have to concentrate, Larry. I mean, that's 500 laps. Things happen so quickly. You can't play any mind games. You can't let your mind wander in a place like Race City.
John Benson Jr., 2 laps now for the finish. There is the interval between first and second. Benson, Hansen.
Chris Bradley, crew chief, watching intently.
Bring it on, baby, bring it on.
That's what he wants now. Just bring it on home as we wait now for the checkered flag here at Race City in Calgary.
Look how close second place is getting in. Twin checkers are up. Benson wins it, and Hansen holds off Jeff Neal at the line for second and third position.
And you put it in the book, make it 3 wins in 93 for Johnny Benson Jr. on the ASA2. 500 laps, 250 miles. John Benson, Hansen, Neil Miller, Lampman here on TSN. It's all over here at Race City Speedway in Calgary. 3 wins this year now for Johnny Benson Jr. He's with Ralph.
Well, it looked like the toughest moment had to have been when you got together with Dennis Lampman there at the end. Tell me what happened and what went through your mind.
Well, I don't know. I was trying to get around him. They were giving a move-over flag, and looked like for a minute he was going to let me by. And then, you know, we bumped and almost got in the wall and got up in the air. And I don't know, we were real fortunate over that deal, but we made it through it.
This was a very tough race to figure out from the pit lane as far as watching what was going on the racetrack. How was it strategy-wise in the car? Was it exactly the way you figured it would go, or were there a lot of unknown factors that crept up?
Well, I don't know. Pretty much everything went the way we wanted. We'd have liked to have got some left side tires, but it didn't work out. So, you know, like I say, the race went good. You know, I had special thanks to Port City Racing, Burgess Chevrolet, and Delco Freedom Battery. You know, they've been doing a great job for us. And, you know, K-Tech, I'm sure they're glad to see us win this one.
Gary St. Amant getting a breath of fresh air in the back of the ambulance. Remember, he was getting some carbon monoxide fumes in his car, and Larry's down in the ambulance with Gary.
Well, Gary St. Amant ran the last at least 150 laps with a broken header and all those noxious, I don't have to tell him, carbon monoxide fumes going into the race car. How do you sound beneath that mask you're wearing?
Well, like this, Nah, really, I'm okay, you know. We got a little carbon monoxide in the car, you know. It's a shame that the Wins Thunderbird had the problems that we did today. We had a flat tire, kind of put us behind there. And
you had a strong third or fourth place going, Gary.
Yeah, we did, you know. The race car was just working just great. I mean, through the corners, I don't know if there was anybody better than what we were. Down a little bit on horsepower, and then when the header broke, that put us more down on horsepower. But all in all, it was a pretty good run for us.
Gary, we saw the arm coming out of the driver's side there halfway, well, three-quarters way through the race. Was that to get air? Were you ever signaling for relief?
Oh, no. You know, I was trying to get air in the car, you know, and tell you the truth, you know, I think after it happened, I started thinking about it, and that's actually what started getting my mind going. And, you know, with 60 to go, I told myself, well, just run the car as hard as I could and it'd get over with quicker, and we did. And actually, I forgot about it, and the fumes kind of started going away. So I'm okay, and you know, I don't know where we finished, but it's a pretty good run for us.
Well, obviously, if you finish first, that's a victory. There are other ways to be victorious on race day.
What a day it's been for Scott Hansen. Goes from 25th to finish second, and Jeff Neal ties a career best, finishing third.
Well, you know, we talked about both of these drivers at the top of our show, and let's start with Scott Hansen. You had the toughest day of all, and it looks like it took its toll on you. How was it inside the car? Were you surprised at how far you went?
You bet. You know, I mean, first the window net fell out, and then the brakes went out, then the power steering went out. But the crew just kept going on it and kept changing the tires and tightening the car up. And it was a long day, let me tell you. You know, that 3 hours of sleep last night was just a little bit short. But we had a fantastic day, and I'm glad to finish. That's 3 seconds in a row, though. We are going to move up here next week.
With a second-place finish here today, I'm sure he'll sleep fine tonight. Scott Hansen, our second-place finisher. This guy goes from second place on the grid start to a fine third-place effort to finish it off. This has really got to get you going. You've been saying so much about how you're feeling more and more positive, and a great run here today has got to do that even more. How come we're seeing this big turnaround? What's the difference?
Well, we've had a few personnel changes, and the guys on the crew, you know, they want to win just as bad as I do. They're all behind me 110%. We all work hard. We worked out here till midnight last night. We were here at 6 in the morning working on the car. You know, we weren't going to beat ourselves. The guys did an outstanding job. I'd like to thank Split Fire Spark Plugs for sticking with me through a rough beginning. Maybe we can turn things around now.
There isn't anybody in this pit area that thinks Jeff Neal can't win one of these races, and from the way this crew is going these days, pretty soon this third-place finisher is going to go to first. Vic?
Yeah, but the guy they got to pass to get there is Johnny Benson Jr., who wins for the third time this year as we run down the top 10 here in Calgary. Now on behalf of Larry Nuber, Ralph Sheheen, and our entire crew, I'm Vic Roeder. Thanks for joining us. Till we talk with you again, goodbye from Calgary and the Players Limited 500.